Sophie Cunningham just walked back into an Indiana Fever gym after 6 months of rehab. And the first thing she saw was Caitlin Clark hitting 30 consecutive three-pointers without a miss. 30 in a row. And when someone asked Sophie what she thought, she didn't reach for a polite answer. What she said will shock and amaze you at the same time, and the way she said it made it clear this wasn't hype for the cameras. It was a warning to the rest of the league. So let's get into everything Sophie said in her first interview since re-signing, because she didn't hold back on anything. Comment Sophie and Cece if you're excited to see Sophie and Caitlin finally back on the court together. Walking back into that practice facility after 6 months away, Sophie Cunningham didn't know two things: what her knee would actually feel like under real basketball load, and what version of the Fever she'd find after a full off-season of roster moves. Both of those answers came fast once camp started. But let's back up first, because the injury story matters more than most people realized.
Did you start feeling healthy and completely yourself again? And at what point did you make that switch to focus on the season and less rehab?
Yeah, I try to do it ASAP. Rehab is horrible, right? And so I think for me, I feel like I got cleared 10 different times. I think people were just being extra sure. And so I fully got cleared in February. And so I've been going and I feel good. It's nice to be back. You know, you play pickup and you do all this, but then once you get out here and you have to be intentional, you have to kind of get used to that speed again. But I feel great. I feel like, our surgeon here with the team doc did a great job, and I'm feeling like myself.
An MCL tear isn't a 6-week thing. You're not resting, then jogging, then playing. Sophie got cleared by the surgeon, and then the real work started because there's a massive gap between the ligament healed and I can cut hard off a screen without thinking about it. She spent weeks on plyometrics, 3v3 pickup sessions, team rehab work before full court runs were even on the table. And even after all that, she told reporters she felt like she got cleared 10 different times because the medical staff kept being extra careful, with full clearance not coming until February.
And I was fully cleared. They had all the doctors, they had the numbers and everything. But if you don't get in front of these people, then it's like, hey, are you actually good? And so that, I'm not even gonna lie to you, that was a little kind of frustrating because I'm someone who I kind of shoot it straight, where if I wasn't feeling good or I was hesitant, I think I would have said something and been honest, because I'm just in the point in my career where I just want to win. I just want to win.
The physical side of it is one thing, but Sophie was honest about the mental side being harder to measure. Your brain remembers the exact moment the knee gave out, and even when the tissue heals, that memory doesn't disappear on its own. She admitted there were still days with a mental block. Days where the body was fine, but the mind was lagging behind, still checking in, still hesitating on cuts it didn't need to hesitate on.
Just since being cleared in February, what kind of workouts have you been doing to try to get back into game shape as much as possible?
Yeah, I mean, basketball shape is just different. You can run as many suicides as you want. You can get your butt kicked however you want, but until you're out here playing, you're never fully going to be in game shape until you're playing games. And so for me, it was just playing a lot of pickup. It was playing one-on-one, 3v3. It was doing plyos. It was just doing all the little things that you just normally do. So it's kind of a normal off season, but just a little bit more rehab.
Wondering, being back in the Midwest, like you talked about, being closer to home, being on the farm, all that stuff.
Yep.
Did that help shape or change your perspective at all, or appreciate that more this past summer going into this new contract? I want more of this.
Honestly, not really.
Okay.
What's interesting is that she actually pinpointed the moment she knew she was truly back. Not just cleared on paper, but genuinely back. It happened in a pickup game. She made a hard cut, landed clean, and only after the play did she realize she hadn't thought about the knee at all during it. Didn't check in, didn't flinch, just played. That was the moment, and she put it plainly when she finally spoke to reporters. The body's responding and the knee is good. Not I feel amazing, not I'm 100%, just that the body's responding and the knee is good. That's how someone talks when they've been through enough to know the difference. Now layer in the contract situation, because rehab and free agency were running at the same time, which is a weird spot to be in. Teams wanted to evaluate her, but she couldn't exactly put together a full week of uninterrupted practice to show anyone. She even acknowledged it directly, saying it's tough coming off an injury when you haven't been in front of any teams, because without that, teams start wondering if you're actually good. So she was negotiating her future while still proving her present. And that whole situation actually explains a lot about why the one-year deal ended up making sense for everyone involved.
The Fever re-signed our good, close personal friend, Sophie Cunningham, to a one-year contract. Let's go.
It was close. It was close.
Can I be nosy right off the jump? Given the changes in structure and money and all of that over the last few weeks, like, was the contract better than you thought it would? Nope. Okay, sorry.
Nope. It's okay. I think,
Sorry.
no, it's fine because it's tough because I came off an injury and like I haven't been in front of any teams.
So while Sophie was grinding through rehab, the internet was busy constructing a whole drama that didn't exist. She'd made some comments on a podcast about her contract situation, and accounts just ran with it, turning it into this story that she was unhappy in Indiana, that the Fever were underpaying her, that she was basically being pushed out the door. And Sophie had to come out and kill that narrative directly because it was spreading fast.
Can you clarify, mostly? Did you get a multi-year offer anywhere? Was that not?
Other places I did. And so I know there was comments, whoa, this is your only offer. No, it wasn't. Like, of course, you know, so I need to stay off Twitter. It's the most toxic place ever. But I just wanted to shut that down because that's not what it was about. I just wanted to be with this group because I think, you know, the more that you can build and you do have a special group and you can stay together, that's when greatness happens. And so I think we do have something special here and, you know, you just want to be a part of that.
She went on Twitter and shut it down herself, point blank. Her exact words, "I'm gonna shut this down right now. I'm not mad about the money. I just wanted more years because I love it here." That's not a PR statement someone wrote for her. That's someone who's genuinely frustrated that people are twisting her words into something they weren't. The issue was always about term length, not dollars, and those are two completely different conversations. But once social media collapsed them into one story, the locker room narrative took damage it didn't deserve.
I think Twitter kind of blew up last night about a comment I made on my podcast, but I was taken, you know, just that's not what I meant at all. And I think if you listen to the full clip, you really understand that I just wanted to be somewhere for more than 1 year. You know, I'm almost 30 years old. I want to have a home. I want to kind of get established, and I would love to get established in a place like Indiana. We had such a great time, and you know, when you find a group of girls who really make you fall in love with basketball again, and you enjoy it, you enjoy them not only on the court but off the court, like you want to hold on to that.
Now here's what was actually happening behind the scenes. The Fever essentially had Sophie's deal structured, but general manager Amber Cox was also running the numbers on Alana Smith and Azura Stevens to see if the cap math could work for either of them alongside the existing core. Both Smith and Stevens wanted max contracts, and Indiana wasn't willing to go there. Smith ended up signing with Dallas. Stevens went to Chicago, and once both of those doors closed, the Fever announced Sophie. The delay wasn't the organization wavering on her. It was the front office doing exactly what front offices are supposed to do, which is exhaust every option before locking the roster in. And honestly, breaking up the Tres Leches trio for a max frontcourt player who doesn't even fit how Indiana plays would have been a bad move regardless of cap room. Clark, Hull, and Cunningham as a wing group isn't just a fun nickname, it's a real on-court identity that took time to build. Spacing, movement, shooting off cuts, all of it works because those three understand each other. You don't blow that up for a player who doesn't fit the pace the Fever run.
I think all of them this morning, they're like, we know exactly what you meant. The internet's doing what the internet does and it's trying to stir things up, but it made me sound snotty and ungrateful. And that is the last thing I ever want. I am so grateful. I know I'm coming off a pretty big knee injury. And so it was never about the money. It was just about the years because I wanted to be with them. And God forbid a girl loves her teammates. You know what I mean? So I think that we just have something special here when we're all healthy. And I'm just grateful to be back.
Sophie also wasn't gentle toward the accounts manufacturing drama around her and the organization. She knew exactly what was being said and why, and she wasn't interested in letting bad faith takes sit unanswered when they were pointed at a locker room she actually cares about. The one-year deal also makes real sense when you look at what's coming in 2027, because Clark and Aaliyah Boston are both approaching epic max eligibility, and Kelsey Mitchell already signed her own one-year supermax to stay in the same boat. The Fever need cap flexibility, and Sophie's team-friendly deal keeps Indiana positioned to run it back with the full core intact when those extensions hit.
Yesterday we were talking. Kelsey was saying, hey, she talked to other teammates about, hey, with us all coming back and being here and things like that. Did you have similar conversations with teammates about getting back as a group?
1,000%. I think when you have a team like last year, it's just so special. And you realize when people are healthy, what we can do here in Indiana. And so, of course, we are all trying to keep our core together. And, we are so blessed to have a new CBA that allows us, to make more money and to have a lot more benefits. And so
Pull Sophie off this roster, and what Indiana loses isn't just a scorer or a rebounder. It's a specific kind of player that Stephanie White's system actually needs to function. And that doesn't show up anywhere in a stat sheet. White has been direct about wanting the Fever to crack the top 3 defensively in 2026 and generate more fast break opportunities off stops. And Sophie shoots off movement, guards multiple positions, and pushes pace naturally. The 2025 Fever ranked 7th defensively, so this isn't small talk from the coaching staff. It's a real gap they're trying to close. The Tres Leches trio works because of how spacing and movement interact when Clark has the ball. Clark draws so much defensive attention that everyone around her needs to be an immediate threat the moment she kicks it out, and Sophie shooting off screens and cuts creates exactly that. Defenders can't sag off her to help contain Clark's drives because she'll punish them from 3. And if they stay attached to her, Clark gets a clear lane. There's no good answer for a defense trying to solve both problems at once.
Sophie Cunningham's return to Indiana provides the Fever a key boost at guard depth, bringing back one of the league's premier shooters and instant momentum swingers in the WNBA. Due to injuries, Cunningham was never able to fully display what she was capable of in year 1 in Indiana. 2 May ankle injuries kept her from getting off to the start she wanted. And then, quite simply, she morphed into perhaps the league's best shooter over more than a month's time.
But the basketball fit is almost secondary to what Sophie actually brings as a protector. In a June 2025 game against the Connecticut Sun, J.C. Sheldon poked Clark in the eye, and then Marina Mabry shoved her. These weren't accidental contact situations. They were physical provocations, and Sophie's response was immediate. She yanked Sheldon to the ground on a layup attempt, took the flagrant 2, got ejected, and didn't flinch about any of it. The message to the rest of the league was plain. Cheap shots at Clark come with consequences.
Sophie Cunningham tried to fight Myisha Hines-Allen. She tried to fight Myisha Hines-Allen. You do not, there are not that many people. You can see everyone else is trying to get as far away from this situation as possible. Everyone else. So she hits a 3. Myisha Hines-Allen fouls her and then tries to step over. And then Sophie Cunningham grabs her leg. Nobody's going near Myisha Hines-Allen, but no, Sophie Cunningham will start the fight. The refs are trying to break it up. None of the Mercury players are going to go near Myisha Hines-Allen. They're scared. She's scared of bejesus out of them. Myisha Hines-Allen is one of the toughest players in this league. Sophie Cunningham going head to head straight with her.
What makes Sophie's physicality different from just being aggressive is that it's controlled. And that goes back to something most people treat as a fun biographical footnote. She earned a Taekwondo black belt at 6 years old, and that's decades of training in how to read physical confrontation, respond proportionally, and stay composed when someone's trying to get in your head. She doesn't swing wild, doesn't lose her cool, and doesn't foul out in the 4th quarter when the Fever need her on the floor. That combination of discipline and toughness is genuinely hard to find in a player who also needs to function as a shooting threat.
I think you're adding in a lot of good people. You have Monique Billings, who is an absolute stud, so athletic. Myisha Hines-Allen, who is a monster. So glad we're on the same team now. I think she is too. And then you have Raven Johnson, who is a great rookie. I've absolutely loved playing with her. Her vibe, her chemistry that we've created so far has been pretty elite at a very short span of time. And so I'm really excited about this team and where we can go.
She built this reputation back with the Phoenix Mercury, where she regularly went face-to-face with players who tried to bully teammates, and it followed her to Indiana. Now she's not doing it alone. Monique Billings and Myisha Hines. Allen adds front court size and rim running. Tyasha Harris and Raven Johnson bring defensive pressure at the guard spots, so Sophie isn't being stretched thin trying to cover everything herself. And on the Raven Johnson situation, Aaliyah Boston already addressed it publicly. There's no issue, and White's staff has clearly mapped out how the ball handling duties split. 6 months of plyometrics, 3v3 pickup, and grinding through rehab alone. And then Sophie Cunningham walks into training camp, and the first thing she sees is Caitlin Clark running a shooting drill that makes the whole gym stop. Not stop because something went wrong, stop because nobody could quite believe what they were watching.
We've gone to day 3 now.
Oh, yeah.
And first 2 workouts. Anything stand out about Caitlin? What have you noticed about her as she's
Caitlin?
back? Yeah.
I mean, she's been back, hasn't she? Like, didn't she just
For the summer.
Yeah, like USA and all that. She's been doing her thing. So people are saying she's back, but I feel like she's been back. But you know, anytime you have her on the floor, she makes everyone around her better.
30 consecutive threes. And the number itself isn't even the most striking part. Sophie kept coming back to the release, how consistent it was from rep to rep, and the fact that Clark wasn't standing still waiting for the ball between shots. She's working off movement the entire time. Catch and shoot, off screens, on the move, and the ball keeps going in. That kind of consistency in a drill setting tells you something real about where someone's game is, because you can't fake your mechanics for 30 straight reps. Then there's the passing. Clark's vision has always been ahead of most players in this league, but Sophie described specific moments in camp where Clark throws no-look passes that leave veteran players scrambling, not because the passes are off target, but because Clark sees the angle a full 2 seconds before anyone else does. You're standing there watching it happen, and your brain is still catching up by the time the ball arrives. And Clark looks different physically too. Not bigger, actually leaner, and that's a deliberate choice. She told reporters that taking care of her body is probably the most important thing at this point in the season, and you can see the logic in it. A 44-game schedule breaks players who aren't built for it, and Clark spent enough of 2025 dealing with injuries to know exactly what happens when the body isn't managed right. So she came back slimmer, quicker, built for a long season rather than a short burst. When someone asked Sophie directly what she thought of Clark's form, she didn't reach for a careful answer. She said Clark is in MVP form, and the way she put it made clear she wasn't doing a teammate promo. She was just reporting what she saw, the same way you'd tell someone what the weather's like outside.
Using the word special, what makes this group girls special?
Yeah, I just think you have a lot of greatness. You have Kelsey Mitchell, you have Caitlin, you have AB, and then you have other people who really know how to let the stars be stars, and everyone else is in their lane and they know their role and they do their role really well.
That quote carries real weight coming from Sophie specifically. She spent 6 months on the outside watching basketball instead of playing it, wondering what she'd come back to. And the first day of camp handed her Clark hitting 33s and throwing passes that made the gym go quiet. Sophie also told reporters that Clark makes everyone around her better and makes the game fun. And those aren't throwaway lines from someone trying to say the right thing. That's someone who came back after a long absence and immediately felt the difference of playing alongside her again. The new players felt it too, and Sophie noticed that fast. This Indiana Fever roster going into 2026 isn't the same group that made that playoff run. They're deeper, more physical, and built around a core that has now chosen each other twice, which in the WNBA, where rosters shuffle constantly, is genuinely rare. Most teams don't get to keep their whole group together once. This one did it again.
Teams that were already established, it was like, how can we bring all these players back and fit them underneath that new umbrella? And so, there was details that need to be worked out, but at the end of the day, like, we're all pretty much back. And so we have new people who are going to help us. And it was a fun off season, but I'm glad that our core is back.
Kelsey Mitchell put it plainly when she explained why she stayed. She talked about her relationships with Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, Lexi Hull, and Sophie, and called it family vibes, saying she couldn't shake it and let it go. That's not something a player says about a workplace she's unsure about. That's someone who found something real and didn't want to walk away from it. even when other teams came calling. Sophie's decision fits the same pattern. Longer offers existed elsewhere, and she took a one-year team-friendly deal anyway because Indiana felt like home, and she wasn't willing to trade that feeling for extra years somewhere she didn't have it. Players don't leave money on the table for a locker room they're uncertain about, so her choice tells you more about what that building actually feels like from the inside than any interview answer could.
Some teams look really, really good. Some teams don't, but it is what it is. And I'm just focused on this right now. I'm happy that our group is here, and I know we're going to get back to where we left off last year.
Now look at what actually showed up to training camp. Clark in MVP form, hitting 30 consecutive threes and throwing no-look passes that left veterans scrambling. Aaliyah Boston on a 4-year, $6.3 million extension, the largest contract in WNBA history at the time it was signed, with her salary immediately jumping to $1 million for the current season. Lexi Hull healthy and back in the Tres Leches wing group with Clark and Sophie. Kelsey Mitchell, one of the most dangerous guards in the league, locked in on another one-year deal to stay in the same position as her teammates heading into 2027. Monique Billings and Maisha Hines. Allen adding frontcourt size the Fever didn't have before. Tiasha Harris and Raven Johnson bringing defensive pressure at the guard spots that takes real load off Clark and Mitchell. That's not a hopeful projection about what this team could be. That's what walked through the door when camp started. The 2027 cap situation is worth understanding too, because the Fever's front office isn't just building for this season. With Clark and Boston both max eligible in 2027, Indiana needs cap room to extend both of them without gutting the roster around them. And Sophie's team-friendly deal is part of how that math stays workable. Amber Cox kept the core intact, passed on overpaying for max front-court players who didn't fit the system, and still left the organization room to maneuver when the bigger extensions arrive. That kind of front office work doesn't get attention when it goes right. It only gets attention when it falls apart, and so far it hasn't.
Not only her, but Kelsey's coming in with a great vibe. AB's coming in with a great vibe. Lexi looks phenomenal. Like, everyone just is looking good. And when everyone's at their best, and practice is like your hardest competition, that's a recipe for success. And so I'm just happy to be a part of it. I'm happy to be here. I will say I'm definitely feeling almost 30. I'm a little sore. I'm getting up there in age, still 29. But no, I feel better than I ever have. And so I'm just excited that it's here.
Sophie came into this offseason saying she wanted to fall in love with basketball again after 6 months of watching it from the outside. She found that in Indiana, which she's said clearly and more than once. And on day 1 of training camp, the team she came back to gave her an immediate answer about whether they'd been doing the same thing all offseason. Clark hitting 33s in a row on the first day of camp isn't a warm-up drill going well. It's what happens when someone has spent months treating every offseason session like it counted, because for Clark, it clearly did. The rest of the league has had all offseason to get ready, so has Indiana. Comment Sophie and CC if you're excited to see Sophie and Caitlin finally back on the court together, like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next one.